Hello and welcome to the 39 Minutes of Heaven we call the D1Baseball Podcast. I am your host, Michael Patrick Rooney. It is the Week 11 preview. Before we get started, it is time to prepare for takeoff because Academy Sports and Outdoors is your new home for Jordan gear. Swag up today and take flight. On the court, off the court, and above the court, making plays in the latest head-to-toe Jordan gear is fun for the whole family. The Jordan collection is available in-store and at academy.com. Elevated styles and shoes for everyone, unstoppable value every day. Unleash your greatness with the Jordan collection at Academy Sports and Outdoors. Kendall, have you ever had the pleasure of Jordan swag? I've never had the.
So that's a really long story. My wife would be very angry that I'm mentioning this, but I do collect Jordans. I have like 6 to 7 pair of Jordans. So I have like assorted like different styles of Jordans. Actually, the inspiration was from Ryan Gaines, who's the ops guy at Oklahoma, a longtime friend of mine. He was like a big like Nike Jordan connoisseur. And like one day I was in New York City walking on the street and I saw a Flight Club. It's like a shoe store in New York. And I was like, man, I love those Jordan 1s. So I ended up buying like 2 pairs of Jordan 1s, and now I collect Jordans. So I actually just got a pair of Jordan 1s that are like the University, like Carolina blue, and they are sharp. I think I'm going to bust those out this weekend for Baton Rouge.
Do you like wearing them? We had at my day job, our Salesforce administrator back in the day, awesome guy, collected Jordans also, and he wore them the way like somebody wore dress shoes to church, right? Like they were like, I wear these only on special occasions. Do you have to map it out, KR?
Oh no, I just throw them on. What's great about Jordans is like, this day and age, I mean, you could throw them on with like some nice like dress pants and put on like a rowback polo or like some sort of polo, and like that's pretty standard. Like if you go to the ballpark dressed like that, people are like, oh, that looks pretty normal. So yeah, if you're ever looking for a really comfortable shoe, the Jordan 1 is phenomenal.
I like it.
And I know you can get some Jordans at Academy. I'm just not sure if you can get the Jordan 1s.
My contribution to the Jordan conversation is, did you know that UNCW head coach Randy Hood was teammates with Michael Jordan on the Birmingham Barons?
Really?
My favorite thing about him.
How about that?
I did not know that.
There you go.
I thought you were about to say that you once scored points on Jordan in a pickup game.
That's right. I didn't just score points. I didn't just score points. I won. It was like an 11-7, 11-9, something like that.
Randy Hood does have awesome stories about that experience.
Played with Jordan. Okay.
Yeah, isn't that cool?
I still remember when he played for the Barons. I want to say the Hoover Met, like, you've seen like the SEC championship game of the tournament where there's people just stacked up on the hillsides. I'm guessing that's kind of the way it was when he played for the Barons. Just tons of people everywhere. But
I have to assume so. Wasn't it also that like Rune's like Tito Francona was their coach there?
He was in fact the manager, right? He hadn't gotten to the big leagues as a manager yet. That is so true. Yeah.
Yeah,
there's a 30 for 30 on it, I believe.
I actually love that like a lot of schools now are using the Jordan brand. I want to say Oklahoma, some of their like gear and like some of North Carolina's baseball gear has Jordan on it, but it's not their uniform like basketball and football. But yeah, go to Academy, get all your Jordan gear.
I'll wrap the Jordan conversation with this. This is in the 80s. I'm in high school. One of our rivals, Haverford School, had a kid from one of the tougher areas, Drexel Hill, named Eddie McChrystal. I'll never forget Eddie McChrystal. And Haverford School is like this elite private academic school. So they recruited him clearly for basketball. No offense, Mr. McChrystal, if you're listening, you were a 4.0 student. I'm certain you weren't. But Eddie McChrystal, their color is maroon and gold. And Eddie McChrystal was wearing the Jordan original, black and red, like those Air Jordans. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I didn't even know that was legal. So me and my dad go to buy basketball shoes. And my dad, the great Michael P. Rooney Jr., who, by the way, is getting referenced in back-to-back pods. Stay hot, Dad.
Quit name dropping.
Yeah. My dad bought me Brooks, these like red and pink Brooks. And now looking back, I'm like, Dad, that was just, come on, you got to have way better feel than that. They were awful. No offense, Brooks. I'm just offending everyone. Offended the McChrystal family, the Brooks Corporation.
Called your dad's shoe choice for you awful.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah,
actually, Brooks I have Brooks in my closet. They're just running shoes now, not basketball.
Yeah, they're good for cross country running, maybe not basketball.
Yeah. See, that's the point I'm trying to make. Come on, Dad.
Yeah,
like
that's a
why do you have your
great
son?
Point.
Yeah. playing basketball and running shoes.
Speaking of brands, let's talk about the action this weekend. Texas does wear the Kevin Durant brand, so why don't we start there, Runes?
Yes. Well, actually, Kendall, there's 2 SEC series that I want to focus on, and I want to hold off on A&M at Texas. So let's do Tennessee at LSU first.
Ooh,
I think that is very fascinating because I still believe in my heart of hearts that Tennessee is the most talented team in the country. I believe them to be unbeatable with Liam Doyle on the mound, and I think that will continue. But like all this, what are we going to call this, stolen base gate, or what are we going to do about them? Like, they've given up more stolen bases than I think the rest of the league.
42 stolen bases in SEC play.
And no one else is in the 30s, right? Like, everyone else is like 20s or below. So
yeah, I had a little birdie from Louisville tell us that Texas and Texas A&M are 3 and 4 stolen bases allowed in SEC play. Tennessee, 42. Like, how's that even possible? Wasn't 15 of them last weekend, though?
Well, and also 16 of them. Yeah. And also Marcus Phillips is a big part of the issue. Like, he's given up almost in the 20s. So
there were a couple last weekend to where like the Kentucky runner was like halfway to the base whenever he was in the windup.
Yeah, it's a big leg kick. So Kendall, you start like LSU has the type of lineup that could take advantage of that. But what do you foresee in this series?
Yeah, you kind of wonder, Jay's style in the series. I mean, obviously, if the catching situation defensively is that brutal for Tennessee, you would be insane if you're LSU not to try to exploit that. I think the biggest thing for LSU is always bet on those guys in a big series with potential postseason implications in terms of the top 8 at home, at the box. There's not a lot of love lost from those two programs. It's kind of new school, old school. I just think LSU is going to play really well. And I think the 2 guys that I'm really keyed on this weekend, Barrett Jones and Monster Milam. Monster Milam, for all the good things I said about him during the Texas series, I want to say he's hitting around 200 in the SEC. Like, he's near the bottom of their lineup right now. And then Barrett Jones had some ugly at-bats over the weekend, and he's only hitting 244. I think it's 243, 244 so far with 2 home runs in conference play. I just got to feel like there is a run at Barrett Jones, and I just kind of wonder a little bit if it's this weekend with the stakes a little higher. It's going to be a packed house. It's going to be rowdy. I'm just not betting against the Tigers at home. I think they're going to show up and play well. But I will say this. I think the key to the series is, like, for both teams, like who steps up on Sunday? For Tennessee last weekend, Tegan Kuhn struggled. For LSU last weekend, they started Connor Ware. Chase Shorts came out of the bullpen. I think he allowed 4 runs in 2 innings. He struggled. So somebody on one of these 2 teams is going to have to step up in the Sunday role. Who will it be? We'll find out, I guess.
Yeah. Joe, let me steer you a little bit here. So Coach Rooney picked Tennessee in this series, which at LSU is, let's be honest, I'm in almost dead last place. I'm chasing long shots, right? Like, if Chris Gennaro, who puts out our weekly picks, if he has a 10-team parlay available, Coach Rooney is in. Like, I am hunting big payers.
Coach Rooney picked Missouri to cover like a -8 spread against Alabama tonight. That's how desperate he is.
Mizzou did not make the list, obviously. But hey, I'm coach.
Mizzou, by the way, is up 5-2 in the third. They've allowed 2 runs since 5 minutes ago. We said they were pitching a shutout. So
let's not jinx it. The fabulous Maroon Dogs are chasing long shots. That's the bottom line. Joe, so here's my theory. Liam Doyle's winning the first game. There's no question in my mind. I don't think Liam Doyle is beatable. And then Tennessee's got to win one of the next 2 games. Now, how confident could Marcus Phillips be right now? I think that's a fair point. We don't even I didn't even look to see who the Sunday starter is, if it's still Coons. But what say you, Joe? Like, feel free to fight me on that premise too.
Well, I guess I would start with the fact that I kind of agree with you that Liam Doyle feels unbeatable, but if there's anybody else who could do something similar, it's Cade Anderson. Mm-hmm. And if they're going to be pitching opposite each other, and so if you tell me somebody runs into a ball against Liam Doyle and hits it out of the park and Cade Anderson is awesome, like I can see that being a scenario in which they don't win a Liam Doyle start. I too am intrigued by the stolen base thing, but LSU's got good athletes, but they're not a real efficient stolen base team. Like, they don't have a huge number, but they also, they're 36 of 51, which is fine. That's
but not great. It ain't awesome.
Not great. I mean, it's probably below what they would say that break even point is of being, worth the squeeze, if you will. So that's kind of intriguing me because it's just not who LSU is. And I think you'll be able to take advantage to some degree because they do have good athletes, and especially in the Marcus Phillips start. But I just don't know that a Tiger, in this case literally, can change its stripes that much on the fly and just be a team that they're just not. Maybe they'll prove me wrong, but that's that's where my mind goes. I just don't know if that's them. And with Phillips, he's still pitching well. Like, it's not
right.
The pitching part isn't the problem. The problem is that every single against him might as well be a double at this point. And so he's there's just a lot of extra bases to be found out there. So I believe I went with LSU in this series. I honestly hardly remember who I pick on these things because I do it.
Correct.
I force myself to go with my gut and just do it real fast and just move on with my life. But I have a hard time picking against LSU in the box, that's for sure. And I will say, as the button on this conversation, both of these teams are going to be in the mix for the rest of the season and be looked at as national title contenders going into the postseason, as they should be. However, in this moment, the team that loses this series will have lost their third SEC series of the season. And then in context, you look at who those losses are against, not that alarming. However, these are two teams that I don't think any of us would have expected to lose 3 SEC series all season long. And here they are, both kind of on the ropes there. So again, I don't think that's actually a reason to worry. However, it is more series losses for either of these teams than I think we anticipated them taking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think the thing for me, I mentioned it a second ago, the thing for me that just concerns me a little bit as we get closer to the postseason is, we're talking about 2 top 8 contending teams that still don't really know what they want to do with the Sunday roll. And that's just really concerning to me when you look ahead to, regionals in 4-5 weeks, and we still don't know what we're doing on a Sunday. That's just concerning. It really is, especially LSU, to where you're relying heavily on 2 elite arms, and Zach Cowan and Kason Evans. They need some guys to step up, or this becomes a team that just in the postseason, it could be a little bumpy, at least in a regional where where things aren't so condensed.
Yeah, I do think that it's the season of volatility, and there's still so much to be learned. These teams are changing. Yep. It's that old analogy: we're changing tires while the car's still moving, right? That's the part of the season we're at, and nobody's perfect, and you got to just have the courage to make adjustments. And I also think the fun part of the series, not only is it 2 great teams, but Tennessee is very demonstrative, and LSU's crowd is also very demonstrative. And so I just like that witch's potion right there. I think it's going to make for great TV. Speaking of great TV, so A&M will go to Texas. I'm told that there's some backstory to this weekend. I will say
what's interesting. What could that be?
Yeah, that would have to do with the Longhorns head coach. And but this is cool. How about this, boys? Yeah. So Texas has won all 6 of their SEC series. They're the only club that's done it. Now, we did learn that Jared Spencer's out for the year, and that's really tough news. If there's a straw that's going to break the camel's back, I think that's it for Texas. A&M has won 3 straight series at Tennessee, South Carolina at home, at Arkansas. So they're playing like crazy. But I think, as the great Hayden Schott pointed out to all of us, rivalry week is not about A&M at Texas. Rivalry week is about Penn hosting Columbia. And just to be clear, I just think Hayden Schott is a treasure for college baseball. And for him to take all of the drama around A&M versus Texas and twist it into Columbia at Penn, because he's a Columbia guy. Jackson Appel, their catcher last year, was a Penn guy. Wyatt Hensler, the third baseman's a Penn guy. And Twitter is ablaze with it. He's got all of the A&M players going at Wyatt Hensler about Penn being a fraud. It's so awesome. So anyway, Kendall, why don't you kick us off there? But I just think Hayden Schott is a beauty, and I am so here for that.
Yeah, things like that are good. To me, are good and healthy for what the series is going to be, because this could have been one of those series that you went into the weekend where the teams are trading barbs. I mean, you wouldn't think it just because A&M hired Mike Early, a guy who coached under Jim. But I mean, if you're A&M, like you could have come out this week and taken some shots at Schloss. I mean, it's happened before in other sports with guys that have left. So the fact that they've kind of made things a little bit more laid back, a lot less dramatic. If you look at the interviews with Early and Schloss over the last 24 hours, this does not look like some sort of, cinematic thriller that you're about to see between two teams that just hate each other nonstop. I mean, the crazy thing about this series, Runes, is outside the lines here, think of all the different elements that are intertwined here. Jace Hutchins, who, is on the A&M staff, Jason Hutchins' son, he pitched at Texas. He's now a pitching coordinator at A&M. Caleb Longley was a hitting coach at Texas. Adrian Rodriguez originally signed with A&M. I saw a picture. I think it was Zach Sim of Orange Bloods tweeted out a picture of Adrian Rodriguez decked out A&M gear. So there's just a lot of interesting storylines here. What people don't tend to forget, I think, is the Schloss and A&M stuff's nasty. That's going to be forever nasty. If you think this is not dramatic, next year when they go to College Station will be dramatic. I can promise you that. But the thing about this series is these kids all know each other, and so I think it's going to be really interesting. I think just looking on the field, I am to the point with the Horns to where until someone actually beats them in Austin, I'm picking them. I just, I was at the LSU series. I was at one of the Georgia games. They're just one of those teams that, when Georgia punched and when LSU punched, they delivered like two punches. That's the club they've been all year long. And they showed that again on the other night on Tuesday against Texas State. It looked like Texas State had that thing won. All of a sudden, Jalen Flores, grand slam, Texas wins, they go home. And that's what's using a lot of their down-the-road arms. So I just really like their vibe. This seems like a team that loves playing with each other. This seems like a team that just consistently plays a great brand of baseball. But I'll have this caveat. If there is one team that can end this streak, it is A&M. I just think when you look at A&M's offense, we could talk all day long about, Lavalette getting hot and Terrence Kill getting hot and Caden Sorrell coming back in the lineup. But I kind of circle a different guy in addition to Caden Sorrell. I circle Bear Harrison. Bear Harrison in SEC play has been insane. I think Joe can correct me if I'm wrong, but I know about a week and a half ago he's hitting over 400 in the SEC. I don't know if he's still hitting over 400 in the SEC, but at one point he was, I think, before the last weekend, and he was hitting with premium power production. So now, coming into the season, the story with A&M was no Gabrick Grahovic, Caden Sorrell on the shelf. Well, now you get Sorrell back, and by the way, Harrison kind of is taking over that Grahovic role a little bit. So he's going in there and getting your extra base hits, getting your home runs like you thought Grahovic would be. So now that is a full lineup top to bottom. So I just think the key to the weekend will be, A&M is going to deliver haymakers, and can Texas, like they've done all year long, respond? And I kind of think they will.
Yep. Joe, what do you see in this series?
Well, first of all, I'm glad you brought up the Columbia Penn series, Runes, because that's really what I'm interested in. And I just think,
sorry, I didn't dissect
hashtag Quake Show.
Yeah, I just think, look, I mean, we talk about big home field advantages, the box at Dish Falk in this A&M Texas series, but if Columbia thinks it's going to roll up to Michael John Stadium on the shores of the Schuylkill River,
the Mike,
and
the Schuylkill River,
yeah, the Schuylkill.
Oh, Kendall, the Schuylkill. It is. That's like
very
for Philadelphia and the
river.
Schuylkill River. You would think they're baptizing people in the Schuylkill River. If they did
I bet
that,
someone
people would
has
die.
been baptized in the Schuylkill River.
I think it's the other thing. People have been dumped in the Schuylkill River. I don't think they've been baptized. It's a bad.
They got some fish with 3 eyes down there.
I'll take your word for it, Rins.
Yes.
But look, if Columbia thinks you're just going to roll in to the mic and come away with a series win, you got another thing coming. To quote a famous song. Shout out to Judas Priest. But in the actual series, here's an interesting thing, because Kendall alluded to it, but for a long time, we were saying over and over again that A&M's pitching was kind of keeping them afloat for a long, long time. And that dynamic has really kind of flipped. If you look in SEC play, all 3 of their starting pitchers have ERAs of 5.5 or higher. And that includes Ryan Prager, whose ERA in conference play is over 7. He's given up 11 home runs in 33 innings and change against SEC competition. That's just not tenable. in this league, especially as the weather like legit warms up now pretty much everywhere. So that's tough. And on the flip side of it, I don't think I've fully given Texas enough credit for what they've done on the mound so far this season, where their team ERA in SEC play is almost a run and a half better than anybody else. Like their SEC ERA is, I think, 2.95, and LSU's is 4.41. So, again, like a run and a half difference. It's just insane when you consider that the rest of the ERAs are all pretty bunched up pretty close, but Texas has just kind of run away with that stat. And I think you're right, Runes, that losing Spencer, I think, does change things a little bit, because now the math is such that you're going to have to use somebody other than the five that you like, which is, Riojas, Harrison, Flores, Volantis, and Grubbs. You're going to have to go to Thomas Burns or enter pitcher here to get big outs this weekend, because that you're just going to need more than 5 pitchers to cover 27 innings against a good team. And so I'm as fascinated as anybody else to see how that works out now that they were already a little bit thin. We kept saying it and it just had never been a problem. Now it might be a little bit of a different deal, but I'm with you, Runes, or actually I should say Kendall. Like, I picked him this week because I'm at the point, where I just have to I'm just going to have to see them get beat before I pick against them at this point.
Yep. Yeah. I think it's all those things, I'm curious to see if Disch-Falk Field is a factor, right? Like, is it, it plays a little bit bigger in my mind than some of the other SEC parks. Does that impact A&M? Hey, Ethan Mendoza is still not playing a position. He's still DHing. So is that fine, or is that, it's a great series because it's just, there's so many questions you can think about. And it's, the rivalry makes it juicy too. So, and I will just end. Joe, where do you come down in the Penn Columbia series? I'm on the Quake show. Where do you stand?
100%. Quake show till I die.
Yeah. I love that Hayden Schott calling everyone associated with Penn a fraud. I just love just outstanding.
I think Schott did ask me today who I was taking on Twitter. I did take Penn 2 out of 3. Wyatt Hensler thanked me. So there we go.
Yeah. Just I'll put a bow on it with this. Hayden Schott mobilizing his entire team onto Twitter to take shots at Penn and take shots at Wyatt Hensler is just an all-time great military move that I think I hope.
Did you see some of the Columbia tweets, the Columbia players tweeting out horns down and whatnot?
Oh, no.
Yeah. So they basically reversed it. And it's like all this stuff like Giggle, they were tweeting out like Giggle Maggie's horns down all day and all this other stuff. Great. Can you imagine if you're like a Texas player and you see that and you're like, what the hell's going on here?
Please have a Columbia pitcher get a huge out in that series and come off the mound with horns down. And the Penn parents are like, I have no idea what that symbol means.
And if A&M wins a series, and Wyatt Hensler can, I don't know what, Joe, does Penn have a hand sign? Joe's a fellow Southwest Conference guy like me, so he knows all about the hand signs. I'm guessing the Quakes do not have a hand sign.
Yeah, they do the W sign for Wawa is what they do. That's what. Yes. So,
Ice Cube, that doesn't mean West Coast. That means Wawa.
That means Wawa. He stole it. Totally stole it. So, boys, let's take a quick break so I can tell you about Tecovas boots. If you love our game, you know that smell, the one that brings you right back. Fresh cut grass, a broken-in glove made with real leather. It's exactly what you get with Tecovas boots. They're made for baseball people, whether you've been wearing boots your whole life or you're picking up your first pair. With over 200 steps of craftsmanship, they are built to last. They feel great right out of the box, and they look even better. Anywhere worth going is worth going in good boots. Find your pair today at Tecovas. I would encourage everyone, get on our site, check out, get on Twitter too. Check out Jack Delachamps has got himself a new pair of boots. He's got literally not flops on the ground this weekend. Now he's got boots on the ground. His videos, he did a great interview with Jim Schlossnagel. So hashtag Jack Jackson is on the scene in Austin getting it done.
Yeah, he tells me he's going to have some Hayden Schott material, so I'm sure that'll be interesting.
So good. So good. His video of getting a pair of Tecovas boots is really phenomenal. Boys, let's do the ACC. Let me give you a menu here. So we've got Miami at Boston College. That's the ALS awareness game on Sunday. I'll be doing that with Mike Monaco and Danny Wexelman. Just an awesome cause for Pete Frates. Florida State's going to Louisville. That's a huge series. I think our own David Seifert will be there. Clemson is at NC State. They're playing right now. UVA is going to Georgia Tech, and that's a very big weekend for both clubs, I think. Wake Forest is going to Stanford. That's just of interest because Wake and Stanford are just, it's hard to take your eyes off them, good, bad, and ugly, and all the rest. Kendall, what strikes your fancy of that group there?
So I am probably going to really surprise the two of you by mentioning this series first. But Boston College and Miami is really interesting to me. Miami last weekend sweeps Georgia Tech to get themselves in a little bit better position postseason wise. But, I'm going to have this in my little piece I'm writing a little later tonight, the KR's Corner. But Boston College guys right now sitting at 9-12 in the league. They've played 24 games on the road. They're 49 in the RPI. I mean, it's at this point is a northern school. They are basically chasing conference wins. So if they can win that series this week against Miami at home, get to the 11-win mark with a home series, by the way, against Stanford remaining, and then a series at Cal. I mean, those are 3 winnable series. If they win 2 out of those 3, they probably go in the ACC tournament potentially on the right side of the bubble. So this is a big weekend for Todd Interdonato and the Eagles. And, Runes and Joe, I kind of feel like we've been waiting on Todd to kind of get it going there. Like, this is a guy that had a ton of success at Wofford, was a rock star there, had struggled a little bit at BC. Now, maybe his formula, they're starting to catch on a little bit there in Chestnut Hill.
Yeah, it's we get to talk to Todd today, getting ready for the game. And one of the things he said that was so cool is he said, "Hey, I'm like so proud of this team. We've won 4 out of 7 ACC series." And, given the transition, and we all know that as good of a coach as Mike Gambino is, the down years at BC were really down. And part of that is lack of resources, right? It's just not an athletic department with great resources. And so you have to be creative. You have to do more with less. And Mike Gambino was great at that. And Todd is like, that's been his whole career. What he did at Wofford with less was miraculous. So I'm with you, KR. Go ahead, Joe.
I'm fascinated by Virginia and Georgia Tech. Feels like 2 teams that go into this weekend feeling like they need it. Georgia Tech reeling off of really the first just dud of a series they've had this season. They've been so good against, frankly, they had a soft first half of their ACC schedule, but they did what you're supposed to do as a good team. So not going to hold that against them. But if they're going to host, they need to continue to pile up some wins. And then if you're Virginia, it's getting late early on Virginia, and it did not help them. Obviously, this is not at all important in light of the tragic events in Tallahassee last week, but losing those 3 games from an on-field perspective was a negative for Virginia. They needed those games. Their RPI was going to go up just by virtue of playing the games against Florida State. So again, not at all important in the grand scheme of things in light of that tragedy, but it did have an on-field effect. And so if you're Virginia, you're just, you need to make hay like crazy. It's not just conference wins. Like, they've got an RPI problem too. And, those things go hand in hand, but you're going to have to start sweeping some teams, I feel like, for Virginia, if you're going to get back in the mix here. So that one's got my eye.
Yep. The Clemson NC State thing's interesting to me. If I'm doing the math right, Clemson's won all 6 of their ACC series, and NC State's won 5 of their 6. And so I'm fascinated there too, because NC State I completely walked away from, and now I am eating my shoe on that. That was
they're at 9-4 right now. It's an interesting fit, and the podcast earlier this week was like almost guaranteeing that NC State ends up hosting a regional. So keep an eye on those guys.
Yeah, gotta love it. Big 12, I don't know what to tell you guys other than I think it's just trap week in the Big 12. Like, the Big 12, I think it's been compelling because it's been a wild ride in the Big 12 this year. Like, it just, it's the league feels incredibly new, even with just 3 new teams. But maybe it's because they had a bunch of new teams last year, and it's just so. Anyway, Arizona's going to Texas Tech. Be careful. West Virginia's going to UCF. Be careful. Ask your friends at TCU how that trip can go. Baylor is going to TCU. Be careful, TCU. That's a rivalry series. Kansas is going to Utah. It's a unique setup. Be careful. And then BYU is going to ASU. And same thing. Like BYU is old and dangerous. And I don't know. Like I am like the Big 12 is like driving with a student driver. Like assume nothing. Right? Like just like it
might be, you know what? One day they're going to drive awesome. The next day you're going to be holding on to the seat and praying to God.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. It's just the Big 12 conference season has been a white knuckle ride so far, and so it's very interesting.
As Stitchhead would say.
Yeah. Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm with you, Runes, that none of those individual series like really strike me as, you know, I'm sure something will end up being compelling because that's the nature of this league. But in the big picture, what I find interesting here is there are really only 2 or 3 teams that I can guarantee, I don't want to say guarantee, but basically are dead in the water. And it's Utah, it's Houston probably because they have RPI problems, and it's probably Texas Tech just because they're also 10 games under 500 overall. So they're probably not going to be over 500 to be an at-large team. But everyone else is in the top 66 in RPI, and there's a lot of teams hovering around 500. And look, you know, BYU's 6-12 in the league, same with UCF, but I don't know, like this league is so volatile that I don't even think those teams are totally dead in the water because their RPIs are pretty good. So, you know, of the 14 teams, 10 or 11 of them probably still feel like, hey, we're still in this thing. And so I think it is going to be a fun finish in this conference, not just at the top, but also just you're going to have teams that are going to be jockeying for 7th, 8th, 9th place in the Big 12 that feel like every spot is important because they feel like they're on the bubble.
Yeah, and I will go ahead, speaking of the bubble, I will go ahead and say, this is my proclamation here, that Oklahoma State, if they win that series this weekend, ends up in a regional. If you look at Oklahoma State this weekend against Cincinnati, they're sitting at 59 in the RPI. Again, the RPI needs to be better, but they're more chasing conference wins right now. They're 6-9 in the league with, with 3 more series to go. But after this, they get UCF at home. They're at Baylor, very winnable series. And then they end up with Arizona State at home. So if they win this series this weekend, I mean, would I be shocked if they won all 3 of those? Not really. And if they win all 3 of those or 3 of the last 4, they probably end up making the NCAA tournament. So I think for Oklahoma State, as bad as things have been for the Pokes, their pathway is there.
Yep. I would say, too, the Big 12 is another one of those single-loss elimination tournaments. So, and only 12 teams get in. And so, like, there's a lot of, both of your points, like there's a lot of real estate left in the Big 12. Like things can change, actually look poised to change. So it's,
Yeah, no, the team I was going to kind of bring up with you, Runes. I mean, I feel like Arizona State's really hard to figure out right now.
I think they have a tough time figuring themselves out. Like I sense a team. Yeah, they're a little frustrated. They feel like there's some irony there because they're really, it's the most talented team Willie's had in his 4 years.
Yeah,
I think they know that and they feel that pressure. They're frustrated. You know, they lost a really, really well played tough game to Grand Canyon the other night at Grand Canyon, and I think they've got a run in them, but they're just like they can't get enough of the levers cooking at the same time, right? It's like Compton gets hot and somebody else gets cold, and then this guy gets hot, and so anyway, they're very talented and they're starting to figure out their pitching in some ways. I don't know, they're interesting. I could see that the bow I'd put on is there's a wide range of outcomes for Arizona State. They are very talented, but they've also proven that they can lose to teams they shouldn't lose to, and they go down and take a series at TCU. I thought that was very impressive. I don't know. They're
definitely not a slam dunk to make the tournament right now.
No. And they're feeling that
based on what they're playing, the way they're playing.
100%. So, boys, I'm going to take you to the Big Ten in a second, but Rhode Island is going to George Mason this weekend, and that's 2 of the best teams in the A-10 right now. The A-10 has been fun to follow, but I just want to point out 2 players, Anthony DePino of Rhode Island and James Quinn Irons of George Mason. They have one of those 2 kids is going to be the player of the year in this league. You know, they're 1 and 2 in OPS. James Quinn Irons, a 6'5" center fielder. I did not misspeak there. He's an enormous center fielder. He's got 63 RBIs. DePino's got 14 home runs, and he's a proven commodity. They both also have. DePino has 17 steals, and Quinn Irons has 22 steals. So anyway, that will be fun.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to say Jack had a nice piece on Quinn Irons a while back on his Twitter feed. He like sat down with him on the team bus going somewhere and did an interview with him. It's pretty good.
Yeah, it's cool. So Big Ten, boys, is interesting. Penn State's at UCLA. Huge series, I think, for both teams, really. Oregon State is at Oregon. I think that's 4 games, if I'm not mistaken.
It is
and
a
4-gamer.
Yep.
Yep. And then Indiana at Iowa. Kendall, I think it's important that we talk about Oregon State at Oregon for sure.
Yeah.
What's your take on that one?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it so many times this year that Oregon is one of those teams that either plays down to their competition or they play up. And I have a feeling they play up to the Beavers. I mean, this is their in-state rival. They would love nothing more. Both these teams would love nothing more than knock the other one off its perch a little bit. And I think the biggest key for Oregon is, can guys like Grinzel go out there and do what they did last weekend? Grinzel against UCLA threw a complete game for the Ducks. On the Sunday game, they scored 10 runs, so they kind of got the offense going a little bit. I think the biggest thing for Oregon is they just haven't been a very consistent club, whereas this year, I feel like with Oregon State, especially lately, I mean, they've been pretty nasty offensively in a good way. I mean, Ivar Arquette last weekend was phenomenal. It feels like he's been great all season long. Gavin Turley, had a big weekend. So Oregon has its work cut out for him. I do lean Ducks at home, though. I don't know. I just feel like they play their best against the better teams in their schedule.
Yep. Oregon State's interesting to me because I think it's an Omaha roster. And, you guys have had them consistently as a top 8 seed. It's just an interesting resume because it's a lot of wins. It's 32-7, and they've played a million games not at home. But, like, the highlights of the resume are not inspiring. Like, it's a series win against Irvine at home, I believe, and it's a series win at Cal Poly. And that's kind of like the big series wins. But, again, you're 32-7. You passed the eye test. You've barely played at home. So, Joe, what's your take on that? Do you have a gut? I mean, you're there. What's your gut feel on this one?
I am. I am. If I were someone who ever wore flip-flops, I would be flops on the ground here. But I refuse to wear flip-flops unless I'm at the beach. And even then, not really flip-flops. I go for the sandals with the straps, with Velcro straps on the top at the beach, not a flip-flop guy.
No judgment. It's all good.
Yeah. So I don't have I think it's, I'm actually excited about the series because I don't have a good feel for it. I mean, I'd be excited regardless, but I don't have a good feel for it. So I think that makes me even more excited. And it is a 4-game series, kind of. 3 at PK Park this weekend, Monday off, Tuesday in Corvallis.
There you go.
So it is a 4-game series in effect. Couple notes here on Oregon. I mean, one, Kendall mentioned Grayson Grinzel, 1.84 ERA in Big Ten play. That's obviously getting it done. And then a shout out to Jacob Walsh at Oregon, who, he is not Blake Burke, obviously, but his transformation this year reminds me a little bit of what Blake Burke did at Tennessee last year after the previous years, because Jacob Walsh, who by the way is the all-time home run leader in Oregon baseball history and did that last year. So this year's just been gravy in terms of that. It's kind of an all or nothing guy. But his strikeouts are down this year. He's batting something like 350 after he was more like a 250 hitter throughout a lot of his career. So he's become a much more complete hitter, much more dangerous hitter, well-rounded, what have you. I kind of have a strange feeling about Oregon State, though. Like, I just kind of feel, for a while, it felt like they were doing a lot of what Oregon was doing in terms of sleepwalking. But to me, it just kind of feels like maybe a switch has been flipped a little bit here. And so I have this, even though I think I picked Oregon in the staff picks, but I do have this weird feeling about Oregon State this weekend, but we'll see.
Yep, it's going to be fun. That'll be very, very fun to watch. Kendall, Penn State, if they're to win the series at UCLA, which, that's not easy to do, can this be something that catapults them back into the conversation, or is the Big Ten just those RPIs too dreadful?
If they won that series, they it would greatly help. I mean, they're at 76 right now. Let's not forget Iowa's at 68 and they lead the league. So,
right.
I mean, yeah, if they won that series and went on a run at the end, I mean, absolutely could get back in the mix. That series being on the road is huge for Penn State.
Yeah.
And they still have Xavier. They still have 3 games at Xavier, who has a 22 RPI. So, yeah, there is a pathway there for the Fighting Gambinos.
That will be the Big Ten will be an interesting study for the selection committee because obviously it's a league with tremendous cachet, but the RPIs are just bad. Like especially the non-West Coast RPIs there. And so like does it, like the typical West Coast leniency on RPIs, does the committee does that come with the West Coast schools to the Big Ten schools? Do they get to is that like do I get to go in group 3 with Joe because he's in group 3? Is that the analogy for that?
Yeah, I'm kind of interested by that too, Runes. It's why Iowa-Indiana is an important series for the Big Ten this weekend, because if Indiana wins it, and they very well could, I think that's trouble for Iowa and for the Big Ten at large, because I think Indiana, with where they're at, like I'm not sure there's enough runway for Indy unless they really rip something special off the rest of the way. Indiana feels like maybe a little too far outside the picture. So, and Iowa's teetering pretty precariously. If they're a Big Ten champ with an RPI in the 50s, maybe we're talking. But if the RPI is in the 80s, not so much. So that's a big series this weekend as well.
Yep. I want you guys to know I have a membership to the Admirals Club, which is that's kind of like the most bougie thing that I'm allowed to do. And I get a guest. So if you guys want to borrow my RPI, I'm here for you. Only one of you can borrow my RPI.
Runes, are you in the Admirals Club? Are you a fan of like the orange chicken or the chicken tikka masala they do in there sometimes, or maybe the barbecue
I
chicken?
tend to be scared off by that. Like I'm more of a soups guy, and then I tend to be a little bit scared by the actual cooked food.
I like the guacamole bar they always have.
Yeah, I'm in on that. Yep. And the avocado toast, I'm all in on that. That's my
100%.
I didn't take Runes. I didn't take you as an avocado toast kind of guy.
Well, it's either that or the cafeteria style. Well, I don't know.
Got to get your healthy fats somewhere,
That's right. Who knew? Boys, other things I would point out. Irvine is going to Cal Poly this weekend. That's an important series. I mean, I think we're all convicted. These are 2 really good clubs. This is a preview of 2 regional clubs. DBU going to Louisiana Tech. Just 2 premier programs that with a lot of pedigree. Chris Gennaro, if you're listening, McNeese at UTRGV. I was on the Vaqueros bandwagon last weekend, and I think they lost the series to Sela, if I'm not mistaken. So if Chris Gennaro puts it right back on there, taunting me. But, McNeese and UTRGV, those are 2 really good clubs in the Southland. The Tommies of St. Thomas are going to Oral Roberts to decide once and for all who runs the summit. And this is fun. I think I mentioned this to somebody. Kendall, your University of Arkansas Pine Bluff Golden Lions are now up to 8-6 in the SWAC, and they're hosting the league-leading Bethune-Cookman Wildcats.
Yeah, #stout your stuff.
That's right. I like it. And finally, boys, we will wrap with this. The Lafayette Leopards are traveling to Worcester County. No offense to all the Holy Cross alumni and friends, listeners of the program, but roll damn cards.
Yeah, exactly. Weekend. Roll. No offense to anything holy, but yes, roll damn cards. Sorry, Fitch.
Yeah, Joe. I'm just gonna say it. Worcester County #fraudulent. Just saying. Just putting it.
Yeah.
Or as my junior high age children would say, they're very mid.
Yeah.
Worcester County is very mid.
Yeah, and I think this whole cracker conglomerate that they have up there, it's sus. It's just sus if we can stay with the vocab. So very good, boys. Outstanding. Kendall, are you going to be Jordan's on the ground in Austin?
I will be in Baton Rouge tomorrow night and Saturday. Then Stitchhead takes over in Baton Rouge on Sunday. And my plan for now is to get over to Austin on Sunday. We'll see if I'm up to that task after 2 days of eating Cajun food in Baton Rouge.
Ooh, I like it. Joe, anything exciting planned for you in Oregon? What are you going to do?
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward tomorrow. This will surprise no one who knows, frankly, how big of a nerd I am. Tomorrow, I'm visiting a place called the Cascades Raptor Center. I'm gonna go look at some I'm gonna go look at some birds tomorrow. They got some owls. We got some
weekend
vultures.
waypoints on site in front of the birds?
Oh man, I wish I could. That's a great idea.
I feel like there's a lot of things I need to know about Joe.
I love it. I look
Velcro sandals. He goes to like a nurse,
raptor
like
museum.
What do you call it? Like a raptor, like an animal nursery. Like what?
Yeah, it's like it's a bird. It's a bird sanctuary, but like
botanical gardens.
I do love a botanical garden too. Shout out to Botanical Garden of the Ozarks in Fayetteville, Arkansas. I've been there.
I don't think this will surprise Joe big time, but I've never been to Botanical Garden.
You should sometime. It's just a nice.
In Omaha, I'll tell you what, in Omaha, we'll go to. There's got to be a botanical garden in Omaha.
I'm sure there is. We'll do a group trip.
We'll get bored. We'll get bored enough by week 2 where I'll be like, you know what? Let's go to the botanical garden.
Let's go look at some plants, man. It's nice to just take a deep breath in those botanical gardens, and just nice quiet space. It's great.
Gotta love it.
I'll send you guys pictures of birds tomorrow. You're gonna love it.
Okay.
It's gonna be outstanding. I'm just roll up by myself to the Raptor Center. Joe just.
Remember, hey, by the way,
Healy, party of one.
It is now legal in Oregon to pump your own gas. So just so you know.
Looking forward to it.
I did find
New Jersey stands alone as the only state in the union. Well,
as they
got to be known. Stay hot, Garden State. Boys, it was a pleasure. Everyone enjoy weekend 11, and that's it. We will catch you next time on the D1 Baseball Podcast.